Hello, everyone. We are back for the second episode of Be the Thermostat and Not the Thermometer podcast, where we interview leaders that I believe are the thermostat that is making a change and an impact in the field that they are in. And today, I am super excited to have Mr. Adam. Welcome. Hey, Adam, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Tron, what's going on? I didn't know that this was like just the second episode, man. You're hitting it fresh, dude.
Yeah. Hey, go hard or go home, right? Like you got to start big. There are people that I believe have been influential that I've watched for a long time, and that if I can bend their ear just a little bit to learn and grow from, I want to do that.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad I'm here, dude. This is like really like the first time we've like talked. So it's good to go a little bit deeper. And I also think this is just going to be the start of you and I having a professional friendship, just to work on things and to connect. I've known you for a long time on Twitter and such. But it's always great to like go deeper with people, because I feel like that's a big missing piece. Is people kind of have that surface relationship with a lot of people, and then sometimes you just got to jump in like this on episode 2,
Right.
And get to know people better, man. So it's cool to be here.
Awesome. Hey, I thank you. So give the people a little bit of background of who you are and like what you do. Like, why do I have Adam Welcome on my Be the Thermostat and Not the Thermometer podcast? Who are you?
Yeah. Yeah, so I started as a teacher, third grade teacher when I was like 22 years old, and I did that for a number of years. And I knew, like, after the first couple of years teaching, I knew that I wanted to get my admin credential. In California, it's called an admin credential. Other places call it like their certification or whatever, but it's the same thing. And I knew I wanted to get it because, I mean, like, our principal was cool, but I know that we had more capacity inside of us as a school. And I've always felt like, and this kind of goes to Be the Thermostat, you can either complain about something or you can actually step up and try to do something about it. And honestly, like, that was like the first time, looking back, that was the first time that I kind of did that as an educator. People would complain and complain. I'm like, you know what? Stop complaining. Complaining is not a strategy. You got to actually try to make it better. So, and then I became a vice principal, and then I was a principal. And then I became a director of innovation for a pretty large school district out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, 35,000 students, 50 schools. And I just kind of ran all the innovative things, classroom design, technology, just kind of everything, working with principals. And then 5 years ago, I stepped away from my school district job, and I've just been doing what I do now full time, which is, I'm a keynote speaker, but I kind of like to, if I have a minute to talk to somebody, what I really do is I think I try to help people realize their full potential in their lives and what they're doing in a professional way. And it's educators. Those are the groups that I work with. So that's kind of like a nutshell. I do a whole bunch of other things too, but that's kind of like my professional resume, if you will.
Absolutely. Hey, that's moving and shaking. That's a whole lot, and that's a whole lot more than what most people are doing. And you've been a thermostat in several different lanes, which is really awesome to hear. So when you hear, and you kind of said it, but like, let's just be very, very direct. When you hear Be the Thermostat and Not the Thermometer, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, you got to set the tone, and I think back to like my first weeks as a brand new principal, not a assistant principal, because you're kind of being the thermostat of your principal. You're setting their tone, but it's really like, hey, this is how we're going to roll. And especially as a leader, and everybody is a leader, but I would say especially as like an admin leader at a school or in a district, people are going to walk and they're going to talk and they're going to act like you. And I'm not talking about like robots and minions, but they're going to go with that energy and that mojo and that fierceness of doing what's best for kids, because kids deserve it, which is my first book, which, a lot of people know me for. But it even goes back to like my personal life. I'm a dad. I have 2 kids, and, my wife and I set the tone. We're the thermostat for our kids, because I was actually telling my kids last night, I'm like, there is a standard in the Welcome household, because my son wasn't doing something right. I'm like, And I got like that serious face. I'm like, dude, this is the standard. You got it right. And I was, like, hey, life is hard. I want to raise my kids to be resilient and strong. And, I wasn't being mean. I was just being the thermostat. I was setting the tone. I was recalibrating the tone. And, I think doing that in your classroom, in your school, in your organization, in your department, in your school district, in your neighborhood, it's super important. With that being said, though, it is really important to lead, but I also think, and I had to learn this, I learned this along my leadership journey. I also think there is at times it's important to follow, which is maybe sometimes you are the thermometer. So that's kind of the dichotomy. Don't get so wrapped up in I'm setting the tone, what I say is right and what we're doing is right. I'm a thermostat, dang it. Sometimes, and this is called ego, it's check your ego. Don't make decisions based on your ego. You're like, all right, you know what? We're going to go do what they said. And that's actually really important because that actually helps your thermostat later on down the road because you empowered your people and you listened to them and you're going on that journey together. So it's not all thermostat all the time. And I know that you know that, but sometimes you got to also be the thermometer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I totally agree. And we have that, right? I talked about those thermometer moments that I've had, right? And not all thermometer moments are negative in that aspect, right? Like I believe as a principal, I am the thermometer of my superintendent, right? I reflect the thermostat that she has set. And then I carry that to build the thermometer for my, right? Like, and I truly believe that. And I think you also are a thermometer when you are working with other people, because you are then reflecting and growing from them as much as you are leading from them, right? Because that's what a thermostat does. Not only does it set, but it also reflects the temperature as well. So talk to me, and you kind of said it. So once you realize that, hey, it's important to be the thermostat, right? Like it's important to do that. What changed with your outlook on leadership?
Yeah, it's just that you didn't have to do everything all the time because when you're setting the tone and when you're setting the temperature on a thermostat, go along with the theme, you realize that you shouldn't be making all the decisions all the time. You should not always, you got to check in on those decisions. It's kind of like driving a bus. Like the leader should start by driving the bus. And then sometimes you got to get in the middle of the bus or near the back or even off the bus and just watch the bus go. But then sometimes you have to get back on. You're like, okay, hey, give me the wheel. You got to self-correct. You got to put everybody in a new direction. But like, just realize that you don't have to be the one driving and fixing and repairing and doing everything for it. Because if you're the only one making all the decisions all the time, nobody on your team is going to have a chance or want to make decisions because they're just waiting on you. That's the default. So what does that look like as a school leader, as a principal? I tell people all the time, in my work when I travel, Tron, it's like make decisions at the last possible moment. Even if you know what you want to do, wait. Just wait and wait and wait. And then see if that decision actually gets made without you having to open up your mouth. Because when that happens, you're still going in the direction that you wanted, but somebody else was able to get you there, which what does that do? It builds capacity. Same with emails. Don't answer every email right away. I tell principals, don't even answer every email. See how many emails you don't have to answer. And you're not responding to your people, but you're just not doing for them what they can and should be doing for themselves. Because when they do for themselves what they should be doing, it builds capacity. They start raising the thermostat, and they start doing these. And then you can go do so many more things when you have that capacity.
Absolutely. And I think the danger and what I and the conversation I have about when you talk about thermostat leadership, when people see it or hear that, they think that you're on all the time. It is all you and all that. And that's not the thermostat. Like sometimes thermostat kicks off, right? And you just let the temperature and let it all go, right? And understanding that building other people up, like you said, the capacity of others is so crucial and so important. So then as we think about that, right, and you build the capacity of others, I also think that it's important for you as a leader to continue to have that personal growth and that personal attainment, right? Where you don't believe that you know it all and you're still learning, and reflecting the learning that you're doing. So how do you ensure that you are continuing to grow?
Yeah, so I think you can look at it a couple ways. I think growing professionally is important, but I also think growing personally actually can help you to grow professionally. I mean, a personal growth could be my whole life. I've pretty much read nonfiction books. I love to learn about history and culture and just what's happening in the world. And a few years ago, I just kind of made this realization: like, I never read novels, and I read so many novels now, and I've grown in different ways from like a literature standpoint, from books. It helps me to look at situations in different ways. So I think something as simple as that, a lot of people know, and you said it before we got on the show, was, I mean, I'm a big runner. I run every single day with my wife, and I've run a bunch of marathons. And then I was kind of getting bored with running marathons. So I ran 5 marathons in 5 days. And then I was kind of bored with that. And then I ran 13 marathons in 1 year. I ran a 24-hour race where you run around a mile loop for an entire day, and you run as far as you can. And let me tell you, man, it was hard. I ran 103 miles in 24 hours. But when you do things like that and you push yourself, if it's mental or physical or emotional, you realize, you're like, oh, I did that. I can do that. Or I did that. I don't know if I can do that, but I'm at least going to give it a shot. And that's the point. You may not always have that success. My goal was 100 miles in that race. I barely made it. I ran 103 miles. And let me tell you, the last 3 miles were like I was walking, right? My body was thrashed. So there wasn't a lot of margin, or not a lot of room for error. There wasn't a big margin, but at least you tried. Because so many people go, oh, no, not me. I couldn't even run a half marathon, Adam. And I'm like, yeah, you can. Have you tried? Have you even done a 5K or a 10K? So often we just put these barriers and these blocks in our brain, and we tell ourselves, no, I'm too old, to this, to that. No, not me. And it inhibits growth. So I think personal, professional, professional, personal. And a big key is having people in your life that are going to push you. I'm like, Tron, like, what's next? And you're like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, what is it? Make a list. Make a list. Talk about those things, because they're not going to happen if you're not talking about them, if you're not writing them down, and you're not having forward progress.
Yeah. Man, I remember hearing you speak one time, and I think it might have been at our fall conference during COVID. It was virtual. And you said the first thing to get moving or to doing something, the first step to doing something is doing something, right? Like, you have to get moving to actually do something. And I'm like, you're right. You said, don't worry about if you may fail, or, hey, if you want to do a podcast and it doesn't sound like somebody else's, or it doesn't look like, or you only did one and it's been 2 months since you did another one, like, just do it, right? Like, don't worry about the numbers or who listens, like, just do it. And that was huge. Like, I have it in my thing. All right, I put a heading and I have all my notes, and keep a little binder from hearing people speak, and go back, because there's important moments and things you take from everyone. So what I want a little nugget from you for the audience of, what is one pitfall that you would want others to try to avoid?
Doing things that have absolutely zero return on the investment of you doing that thing. There are so many things. Now, I'm going to just project that the main people in this audience are maybe principals or assistant principals. So just thinking from like a school standpoint, I can remember my first year as a principal, we had to do this report. It's called a SARC, School Accountability Report Card. My first year as a principal, I spent, quite a few hours doing it, and I hit submit, and I never heard anything about it again. Right. So in my second year as a principal, I was like 33 years old. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put a timer on my phone, and I'm going to give myself 15 minutes to complete this report. 13 minutes, I was done. I looked over, I had 2 minutes left. I did a quick scan, I hit submit, and I never heard anything about that report again. And I think people are paralyzed by trying to do everything to this level of perfection, perceived perfection, when there's actually zero return on the time and that perception of perfection with doing it. When what could you be doing with that time? connecting with kids, building relationships, designing curriculum, calling parents and celebrating students at your school, and just going home actually and spending time with your family, which more
Yes.
people need to be doing. Don't be in your office until 7 p.m. with notes everywhere, doing things. And I'm just going to add one more thing to that. It's just because you have the title of principal doesn't mean that you need to be doing every single thing. My goal as a principal was to do as little as possible. I wanted to be the thermostat and empower people in my building to do other things and know what your talents are. I think that goes along with that. One of my talents is not schedules. I suck at doing bell schedules and recess schedules and instructional minute schedules. And I knew that. And I think this is where ego gets in the way. People go, well, I'm the principal, I should be doing this. And I was like, heck no. Because if I have to do the bell schedule, I'm going to be there for like every weekend for like 2 months with paper all over my floor. So you know what? Build relationships and get to know your people. One of my teachers, first grade teacher, she was amazing at schedules. And I asked her, I said, hey, our bell schedule, it's unorganized. It sucks. I think it's actually out of compliance. Can you take a look at it for me? And she looks at me, she goes, I thought you would never ask. And I was like, yes. You know what? And then come Monday, she gives me this bell schedule that was perfect. And
Yeah.
all I did was empower her. I bought her a gift card to Starbucks and, you know, just to thank her, right? And she was like, you didn't have to do that. But I'm like, it's your schedule. You,
Right.
the teachers, are actually living this. I want to make sure it's the best for you. So just think about the investment of time and then that perceived outcome or what the outcome is, and just get over any ego that you might have that you have to do everything because you have the title. Wrong answer.
Right. Right. Oh man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So what motivates you to be the thermostat? Like what motivates you to go out and do the keynotes and investing in others and helping others be the best leader, educator that they can be?
Yeah, I mean, you know, what you just told me about that virtual keynote was supposed to be in person in Peoria. Super bummed because I love IPA. Shout out to Illinois Principals Association. I got a lot of friends in Illinois. You know, honestly, Tron, it's like hearing those comments that you just said that, you know, you took notes. It took you 2 years to start the podcast that I talked about, because even though I'm on episode 2, we'll table that for another time. I'm kidding. It's just that, you know, people taking some small tangible takeaway that hopefully they go make their organization or their people a little bit better. It's that butterfly effect. I still look at myself as a teacher, Tron. I just have different students. You know, I've given over 300 keynotes all across the country. So it's just tens of thousands of educators. And I know my message doesn't resonate with every single one of them. But, you know, thankfully, I'm blessed and grateful that I get a lot of great feedback that, you know, it does. And people make a little change. And I just love, like I said earlier, trying to help people maximize their full potential as an educator or as a human being, you know, if it's with running or pushing themselves outside of their life. And, you know, also just keeping my finger on the pulse of what's happening. I feel like I have a lot of perspective because I've worked in 42 states. So I've just seen big old districts, small, super rural with like, you know, 300 kids, K-12, and it just helps to kind of, you know, bring perspective to my message. And then when I connect with people, so I think that's kind of what keeps me going.
Yeah, man. Like I think it's so crucial, man. And I truly appreciate it, right? Like I appreciate that investment, right? Because here's what I realized young in my educational career is that everybody has an opportunity to make an impact and a difference, but not everyone will. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so just being willing to do that and helping me. Just as a side note, so we get on the record, I did do bow tie Tuesdays in 2020. I only did 3 of them. So I did some steps. And it took a while to find the mojo, but I got it. I got it, Adam. I got it. And so, hey,
you got to keep the tempo
question.
now. You just got to keep the tempo. Keep the
That's
tempo.
Right.
Keep
That's
the tempo.
Right.
Keep the
Right.
tempo.
And have a plan, right? Have a plan.
Right.
So I know people to connect
Right.
to, aka you, to continue me growing and developing my plan. of investing. So, hey, last thing, in John Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, he quotes Dr. David McClellan of Harvard that people with you habitate with or associate with are called your reference groups. And these people determine as much as 95% of your success or failure in life. So as educators, I believe that we need to have our reference groups influence around the appropriate people in social media, right? So let's help other people grow their reference group. Who are 5 people that others should connect with or follow?
Yeah, man, this is a see, I don't ask this question on my podcast because it's a really hard question because there's so many people
Right.
out there. But
Right.
and I have, yeah, I mean, I have tens of thousands, and I got my 5. The first one is actually somebody that we know, that we know together is Dr. Marcus Beelan. Marcus and I met years ago, high school principal, Huntley High in Illinois,
Yes.
and we've hung out in person multiple times. I'm helping him with some things professionally. Dr. Marcus Beelan, just an amazing human, just super dedicated educator. I think he's former president of IPA or executive director, however they call it. Super awesome. Second one is my boy, Dr. Howard Field. He was the principal of the year for Missouri a couple years ago. He's now a HR director. Howard and I, we talk like every other week. Super smart dude, has a new company called Edu Openings, which is really trying to change the game with education and jobs. And he's just like the real deal human being and just like entrepreneur and educator and just gets it. And every time I talk to Howard, I learn and grow in a different way. So those are my first 2. My next one is Cass Nelson. So Cass is a principal out in the Handle of Oklahoma, super rural district, so small that her husband is actually the superintendent, Kobe Nelson. But Cass, she's getting her doctorate right now. Her school is so rural. She's the principal. She also drives the bus. She drives the school bus in the morning. And I've known Cass for over a decade. Another amazing person. Dr. Courtney Orzel is my number 4 choice. She is a force of nature in Illinois. Courtney and I, we text every other week also. Awesome human being. She is fierce. And I love fierce, strong women. And Courtney is one of those people that is just doing former superintendent, doing amazing work with schools and districts and superintendents now. And my last one is somebody that's kind of new to my network. It's Dr. Carla Pena. Carla is a principal down in Laredo, Texas. So she is Mexican-American. She came from Mexico to the United States when she was in middle school, had to learn the language. She's getting her superintendent's licensure. Her school is like A+ rated. They are 15 feet from the Rio Grande. So her school is 15 feet from Mexico. They actually have students that live in Mexico that come to her school because they have dual citizenship. We were talking the other day. We have not heard the last from Dr. Carla Pena. She's just force of nature and someone who I think I'm going to be learning from for a while. So those are my 5, Tron.
That's awesome. Hey, man, hey, I feel special because 3 of those 5 I know and I connect with as well. But man, I can't wait to follow those individuals. And thank you for sharing with us today, man. It has been such a great deep dive into talking to you, Mr. Adam Welcome, getting to know you more, getting to understand why you choose to be the thermostat and not the thermometer. So tell everyone, where can they find you at? Where can they connect with you at? How can they get more nuggets of information from Mr. Welcome?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all over the internet. You can go to mradamwelcome.com as my website, blog, podcast, all my speaking information. Mr. Adam Welcome on social media too. I pride myself on everybody that reaches out to me. I respond to everybody. So if you got a question, you can tweet me or DM me or whatever, and maybe I'll see you at an upcoming event that I got going on.
All right. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so very much for tuning into the Be the Thermostat and Not the Thermometer. Hey, go out, make a difference, and continue to be the thermostat. No matter if you're an educator, a leader, a teacher, a preacher, wherever you are currently listening to this podcast, know that you have opportunity to be the thermostat in your home, in your work, and in your community. Thank you very much, and have a great day.